Hello and welcome to episode 22 of BM by BM. I am Bailey.
I'm Maxie. We did it.
Yes. And this is Books and Movies by Bailey and Maxie.
Right. This evening we are discussing Minority Report. This is a film in a not too distant future, 2057-ish, something like that. So near future. The main premise here is that the society, has created a division of law enforcement. At the time of the movie, it only exists in Metro DC, but they call it pre-crime, where essentially there are three precognitives who have visions of the future. Their visions, they basically have visions of murders before they happen. So the police have learned how to essentially stream the visions, pick up visual clues, and they arrest individuals on the basis of the fact that they were about to, so for future crimes. And the story centers around the captain of this unit, who works to prevent crime, basically, and exclusively murder. It doesn't work on theft or rape or anything else like that. As they explain it, a murder causes such a disturbance in the, I don't know if they said space-time continuum, but basically that it I forget if this was the exact language they used, but basically it causes such a reverberation that it flows backwards in time, and the precogs catch the reverberations of that horrible psychological rending of the natural order event before it happens.
So it's not like 1984 where it's like a thought crime or like against the government. It is legit murder. I think there's a scene at the beginning of the film where like a husband finds a wife having an affair or something, and they arrest him before any harm is caused.
Yes, go on. I'm waiting for the punchline. Yeah. So this is a man who catches his wife in the act. But one of the points they make is there is almost no premeditated murder anymore, because no one's that stupid. They know if you plan a murder, they will know it and they will catch you. So they're almost all attempted murder, crimes of passion. And so in the movie, they have, I think it's like 22-minute warning. So they have to figure out the whole thing and get there and stop it. And in this particular case, in fact, the man had his pair of scissors and was on the verge of striking. So he was in the act of attempting murder in this particular case. But the line that he said as they were arresting him and putting his halo on to suspended animation was, "I didn't do anything." And they said, "Yet you were going to do it. We know you were going to do it." So it was really interesting, like that thing. So yes, you are arrested for a crime we know you were going to commit, but we arrest you before you commit the crime. So it's just really interesting concept there, and starts to get into some questions about things like predestination. Shall we discuss theology?
Why not?
All right, you start.
Well, and I've also been listening to a podcast called The Bible Binge, where they go through different stories, and it's been pretty heavy Old Testament that I've been listening to, although I think the last one I listened to was Cain and Abel, but I did listen to their most recent episode was about Zacchaeus, I think. Anyways.
Okay. What's it called?
The Bible Binge. It's by the Popcast Media Group. It's really good, and they just talk about stories from the Bible and kind of interpret them with humor. But it's interesting. So I was listening to the story about Cain and Abel today, and one of the things that one of the hosts said was, it's interesting how in the Old Testament, like, there's a difference between revenge and vengeance. Like, I know we've talked about in Genesis when some brothers of a girl ended up using circumcision as a means to unarm an entire community so that they could go and slaughter them later. But
Jacob's
all this to say,
Joseph's son.
Yes.
This is the brothers of rape. No, go on. I know exactly what you're talking about. I just know the names right.
It's like random. Oh, by the way, you have to get circumcised and we're going to kill you.
Yes.
But all of that to say, it's very interesting that God did not strike Cain dead. He put a mark on him and kind of expelled him, very similar to the Garden of Eden. So all that to say, before Cain actually killed Abel, God said, you know, sin is creeping at your door. Like, I think everybody knows that there are telltale signs, whether or not in the movie this guy knew that his wife was having an affair, whatever.
He did. He suspected. In fact, he went out to get the paper and saw the guy lurking around and noticed him and came back in and said something to his wife. And he caught them because he left for work and then hid behind a tree and saw the guy go in. So whether he had a suspicion or just became suspicious then,
right.
It wasn't a chance return home. Like he had a suspicion.
So I think there are ways for you to deal with stuff without attempting murder. Like to talk to people instead of trying to stab them with scissors.
Yes.
So I don't know. I don't know if he would have killed his wife if they hadn't reached it in time. I think there are definitely options that we have for sin, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that's the end all be all of our life. Or I don't know if you're talking about theology in terms of like salvation and sin, or like do we choose to do things, or are things chosen for us? Are we part of a bigger plan? I don't know. But
yeah, so it's interesting this whole idea of predestination, and if you want to have a Calvinist Arminian argument about this, and then also is what's the difference between pre-knowledge and predestination? So for those of you fans of the show who aren't theologians or don't follow this tradition, so the Christian faith believes that God is omniscient, that he knows everything, and that he's outside of time. So nothing can possibly be a surprise to him. So how do you parse out the difference between knowing things and then God is the maker of all things? So how is that not predestination? How has he not destined us to do whatever it is that's going to happen in our life? And how does that jive with the concept of free will? So even not in the Christian tradition, this whole, lots of stories treat with this concept of we ultimately, so psychology talks about this, and lots of fields talk about, and a lot of them seem to come around towards this idea of ultimately we have choices at the macro level. You chose to take a drink of water there, but did you really choose to be the you that you are? Like films like Butterfly Effect, like no matter what you do, you're going to come back. There might be pathways around who you are, but you were never going to be an astronaut who really fails to get along with people at this stage in life. That was not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Okay.
to the movie, though.
Yes. Minority Report.
So I will say, so totally different topic. This movie made a mark in my perception of the advancement of technology. And today, how long has it been? What year did it come out? 15, 20 years ago it came out, I think.
Sure.
I don't recall. It's been a hot minute. So there are technologies.
It came out in 2002.
There you go. 18 years ago.
Oh my gosh.
So notice this. There were technologies that did not exist at the time of the making of the movie that do exist now.
Mm-hmm.
For example, his big glass wall that displays the information he needs, and he manipulates it with a glove that he wears. So that's both hands. He has a 3-finger glove, and he can manipulate things on the screen without touching the screen. Mm-hmm. There are parts, I believe it's in this, where images from one device spill onto the surface that he's looking at. There's a VR parlor, basically, where you go and you can have these simulated virtual reality experiences, and none of that. So those concepts were there. I'm not saying the makers of the film made up these concepts, but a lot of those technologies are now quite widely available. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting that it seems to me that science fiction tends to do a fairly good job of predicting where we're going with technology, but it almost never advances at the pace. So in that same movie, cars were all autonomously driving, right? Mm-hmm. So I guess maybe in the film, some technologies had been existing before that, but the point is, we have some of those technologies available now, and our cars are getting towards autonomous driving, but not quite where they were in the movie.
No, they are not.
A specific example. I just watched a news bit on artificial intelligence, and specifically on facial recognition, and the great, questions that raises and ethical dilemmas. Well, I don't know if you remember in Minority Report, everyone was identified through eye scans, and that concept happened several times through the film. Mm-hmm. But it's particularly in advertising. So when you would walk down a crowded hallway, every advertisement would call your name, like, "Hey, John Anderton, wouldn't you like a pair of new glasses? Hey, John Anderton, the Visa MasterCard is that kind of thing." And then when he got his eyes replaced, watched the movie, he walked to the shore and he says, "Mr. Yakamoto, how did those cargo pants work out for you?" So that kind of wrong hand, targeted advertising.
Yes.
And then facial recognition. So we just combine a couple of those things to say the companies know who you are, they know where you are, they know what your preferences are, and they're going to custom your experience of the world as you move through it. Customize. Yes.
Which that is happening. So cookies. Whenever you search for something and you buy something, for example, my husband was buying some new shoes like a week ago, and we're watching Hulu one night, and what pops up? An ad for some indestructible shoes. Like, it's just crazy. Or a realtor ad, and I've been using the realtor app to look at houses. Like, it is just crazy how easy it is for us to be inundated with advertising that is specifically tailored to what we look up whenever. Like, even if, like, Sephora ads on my work computer when I wasn't on Sephora at school. Like, it's just crazy.
So, for the sake of our viewers, if you want to know what you should be thinking about, I'm trying to find the name of this company that was in this feature. So lots of companies whose names you would recognize have been developing facial recognition software. And in fact, recently, one of the head folks at Google said they've basically been slow walking that development because of all the concerns that come with facial recognition.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to find the name of this company while we're still here on the show. But essentially, the organization that has, according to the show I watched, has kind of leapt to the head of the pack is one that has done so because they have been unscrupulous in building the largest database of faces in the world by scraping them off publicly available sites like social media.
Mm-hmm.
And they have been issued cease and desist orders by Facebook, Twitter, etc., and they've ignored them and said, no, it's our First Amendment right to take other people's photographs and names off your site. So no, we will not stop doing this. And then they are selling it's basically a search engine for faces. So you enter a face and it will search for you. So they are selling their services to
the highest bidder?
Well, no, whoever will pay. So law enforcement, over 3,000 law enforcement agencies, corporations,
mm-hmm.
etc. So your face and name is almost certainly in that database. And so your face has almost certainly been searched. Not that they were searching for you, but when they were searching for someone else, they almost certainly compared your face to the one they were running to query whether it's a match. So
I wonder how they've been able to modify facial recognition technology with COVID, with so many people wearing face masks. Because, I mean, that's one of the things that they do is that they scan Customs and Border Patrol. I'm thinking more at airports than like actual border patrol. But I don't know how you would do that with masks.
So it may be worth a more extended discussion about facial recognition at some point, because as I'm sure you're probably aware, one of the very serious problems with facial recognition is that it's really, really accurate for white males. It does not have a high rate of accuracy for black and brown faces. So you can imagine exactly how that may be problematic in combination with other existing issues that we're addressing now. So we have problems that are inherent to facial recognition software is that they work best on people who look like the people designing them. But that doesn't stop users of the technology from treating the results as if they are very reliable.
Yes.
So come on, Minority Report. Is I think what we're trying to say.
Yes.
All right, final thoughts on this.
Don't kill people. That's number one.
That's a good one. We should make up a really unbreakable rule about that. Like when you tell people things to do, what do you a directive or command, like a commandment. We can make it like that.
Yes.
Like, don't kill people. What else?
Yeah. Yes. Maybe like 9 others that we could add to the list.
Oh, for sure. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, speaking of one thing we've talked about, like, we should put something in there about cheating on your husband or your wife.
Yes. Stuff like that.
Anyway.
So yeah, don't kill people. And then also, yeah, I think it's very interesting that this film was able to not necessarily predict, like, I do think that sometimes Central Intelligence or the FBI have technologies that we are not sure of that aren't mainstream. So I don't know. I have not researched how they set up this technology, but it would be very interesting to see where they got ideas for this kind of stuff, because it does seem very specialized. We were actually having a conversation about Star Wars on Sunday and how it seems so timeless because all of their technology is just blinky lights and you never see a screen. You see buttons. You can't really see the language that's on them. And then they change it in different versions depending on if you're watching a restored version or the original. They change the language on the console. But it's aged well because the technology is not as specific. And so with Minority Report, it's kind of the exact opposite. You have a very specific type of technology that is used in a specific way. So that is interesting.
Very interesting.
Yes.
By the way, go ahead. Sorry, please.
One other tie-in I have, it made me think of Person of Interest, where it's like this machine that puts out a number, and the number is normally a social security number that's associated to someone. And they're able to track this person down using technology that's already in place, like all of these cameras, everything that may or may not have been established because of the Patriot Act after 9/11. And so the show's premise is we have the technology and the ability to track down people already, you just don't realize it.
Yeah.
So that was very interesting. And it stars Jesus. Jem Caviezel is in it.
Oh, all right.
Person of Interest. So there you
go. So the company that I mentioned is named Clearview. So Clearview AI. So check them out. A takeaway from me is I'm going to call out the warning, and we didn't discuss it in detail, but the warning to trust your technology too much. And that was really one of the themes of this movie. Let's just not give it away at all. We haven't even mentioned what the driving even plot of the movie is, but the problem comes because they had come to rely on their technology and essentially trust it without questioning it. And this isn't about being always suspicious. This is giving over your judgment to technology. And I think that's a fitting warning. Like, don't trust your tech. Like, don't keep your brain in your phone. Leave it in your head. And train the computer in your head to be the one that you rely on the most. Use your external hardware as backup and as support for your main processor. So that's my take.
That's good.
Thanks.
Yes, very shallow overall look at Minority Report. No spoilers, just facts.
That's it. All right. Do you remember what's coming up next?
Yes. What happened to Monday? With a special guest star.
Yes. So we are inviting my niece on to this show because she recommended that movie, right?
Mm-hmm. That is
so
correct.
I need to get on it and get up to speed on what happened to Monday.
It's
So come on
available
back.
on Netflix, I believe.
Oh, excellent. So let's appropriately watch what happened to Monday on Friday
Okay.
of this week.
Okay.
Not Monday, Friday.
Right.
Okay. It's a deal.
It is.
Friday, 8 p.m.
What happened on Monday?
Right. Who?
Who's on first?
Exactly. All right, y'all. Be good. Be safe.
Yes. Watch. Don't kill people. The end.